mad about masks. Testimony today from flight attendants caught in between.
These days I come to work anticipating disruptive behavior.
Quota concerns. New legislation in California taking aim at Amazon. The changes for workers and the impact it could have across the nation. It is Thursday, September 23rd. I'm Nicole Burley. This is News Nation Rush Hour. We begin tonight with a major breaking update in the Gabby Petito case. Just minutes ago, authorities issued a federal arrest warrant for her fiance, Brian Laundrie. News Nation's Brian Enton live for us tonight outside Laundrie's parents' home in Northport, Florida. Brian, this is obviously a major development tonight.
Yeah, a major development, Nicole, just within the last 10 minutes. This is now officially a manhunt. The FBI is now looking to arrest Brian Laundrie. The charge, they say, is use of unauthorized access device related to his activities following the death of Gabby Petito. And we have learned this has to do with a debit card that he used. So right now, again, officially, Brian Laundrie no longer just a missing person, now a suspect, and this is now a manhunt. Take a look at this. The FBI and the local law enforcement here in Northport, Florida, spent the day out at the reserve again, the Carlton Reserve, 24,000 acres. They are searching, full of snakes and alligators. 75% of that reserve is covered in water, so it's very, very difficult. They're using swamp buggies and dive teams and helicopters and drones. Also interesting today, Brian Laundrie's parents left the house for the first time in quite some time, and they went to Orlando to meet with their attorney. I tried questioning them about a half an hour ago when they got back to the house. Take a listen.
Mr. Laundrie, where's your son? Do you know anything about what happened to Gabby Petito?
September 1st.
Why aren't you talking? Why aren't you out looking for your son?
So interesting, that was about a half an hour ago when they arrived back. That was before this breaking news just within the last couple of minutes that the FBI now has an arrest warrant for Brian Laundrie. Again, this is now a manhunt. Nicole?
All right, so Brian, officially a manhunt tonight. A lot of people have been wondering, what charges, why an arrest warrant hasn't been issued previously. Do we have any idea why it's happening now?
Well, they've been going through all of the records, and apparently they found something they could nail him on when it comes to the debit card. According to that arrest warrant, he may have used Gabby's debit card after her death, and her PIN, that is technically against the law. Now they have enough to bring him in, if he's alive, and question him, Nicole.
Well, Brian, you have been on this. We know you will stay on top of everything for us. Thank you so much. And for you viewers tonight at 9/8 Central, we have a special edition of News Nation Prime, an entire hour focused on the Gabby Petito case. Brian Enton, Marnie Hughes, and Ashley Banfield will answer your questions live, digging into why this case has captivated the country. Now, in the wake of this new information in the Gabby Petito case, so many of you are also pointing out, rightly so, that there are other people missing right now in this country, particularly people of color who do not get the same level of media attention. And we here at News Nation, we want to change that. Just this afternoon, college student Jelani Day, missing for weeks, was confirmed dead. His mother talked exclusively with News Nation's Rudabeh Shabazi moments after that tragic news broke. Rudabeh, she has to be heartbroken.
Yeah, Nicole, it was such a tough interview to do because she was so heartbroken learning of this shocking news. Jelani Day's mother says her mission was to find her son. She worked relentlessly to do that, and now it's to get justice for her son. His body identified just hours ago through forensic dental identification and DNA testing.
I always knew that there was a chance, but I was trusting God for the chance that he was going to come back home to me.
A mother's unspeakable agony. Her son, 25-year-old Jelani Day, a graduate student and aspiring doctor, now confirmed dead. Day's body was found on September 4th, floating in the Illinois River, but was just identified hours ago. Now that he's been found, his mother wants answers.
I need to know why. I need to know who. I need anybody who knows anything to come forward.
She says he didn't know anybody in the area where his car was found and that he wasn't depressed.
We talked daily, and if I didn't talk to him every day, one of his siblings talked to him.
Now it's been 30 days, and they will never talk again.
Jelani's been to Alabama, Jelani's been to Atlanta, Jelani's been to Florida, Jelani's been to Jamaica, Jelani been Puerto Rico. And I sent him 2 hours away to go to grad school. And now I can't talk to him no more. I need answers. I want my baby to have answers.
Day aspired to be a speech pathologist, a tender heart still fighting for his childhood friend.
Growing up, Jelani had a friend that had a speech impediment. His name is Paul. And Paul couldn't take up for himself, and people used to tease him and make fun of him, bully him, and Jelani protected Paul. And Jelani used to speak for Paul.
And his mother says there's no way he would have taken his own life. The cause of his death at this hour remains unknown, Nicole.
Well, our hearts certainly go out to Jelani's family. Rudabeh, thank you for that very tragic update. Well, next week here on News Nation, we will debut a new series. It's called Missing in America. We'll be highlighting more of these types of stories, trying to get that media attention. And we do have more breaking news tonight. 13 people shot, 1 killed after a gunman opened fire in a Tennessee grocery store, a Kroger store. 4 of those victims are in critical condition. And News Nation's Luke Jones from our station WREG is on the scene in Collierville with how that investigation is going.
Police continue to comb the inside and outside of this Kroger grocery store in Collierville, just outside Memphis. We're told around 1:30 local time, a gunman ran into the store and opened fire. Multiple witnesses telling us they saw him running in with what appeared to be a big gun. What followed were multiple gunshots. They're saying at least 12. We do know from Collierville police, at least 13 people were shot. 1 of them died, and 12 are recovering at area hospitals. No word on their conditions at this point. Later, police finding the gunman with what they believe was a self-inflicted gunshot wound, but they are not commenting on whether he was found inside or outside of this Kroger. Still no word on a motive, but we do know they have a lot of investigating to do here on the scene. They specifically mentioned to us they do have the FBI here assisting with that investigation, and they will be searching the shooter's car. Back to you, Nicole.
All right, Luke, thank you for that. Well, now we switch to the pandemic and some possible light at the end of the COVID tunnel. New models predicting a steady drop in the number of new cases even through the winter. But a closer look suggests it really depends on where you live. For example, Florida has reported more than 64,000 new cases in the past week. Listen to this. That's an 840% increase. Meantime, in Nebraska, they've just seen 5,400 new cases in the past week, and that's a drop of 187%. News Nation correspondent Tom Negevin spoke with some leading epidemiologists about this. Now, Tom is live at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York. So, Tom, is it possible, dare I say, that the worst of the pandemic here in America is over?
That's it. You know, Nicole, you don't really even want to breathe the words. Wouldn't that be something? And this is not the answer we were expecting to get today, but yes. They say, yes, we have crossed a Rubicon of sorts here. The numbers indicate, if you break them down even farther, that COVID cases are dropping substantially in this country and are not expected to go back up. And there are a couple of reasons for that, primarily having to do with the Delta variant. We are still seeing more than 2,000 COVID deaths daily here in the U.S., a horrific number, the kind we haven't seen since last March. But deaths, as we know, are a lagging COVID indicator. And what science wants us to look at as of right now are the cases down 12% in the last 2 weeks. That's a big drop. We've seen that kind of a drop before, but this one, the experts say, is different again because of Delta. A lot more people vaccinated since it became the dominant variant here in America. About 38 million people. We've also had about 9 million new Delta cases. So you combine those two numbers in one way or another, natural or vaccinated immunity, you get a lot of people who Delta can no longer infect. Putting those numbers together is important. And even in parts parts of the country with lower vaccination rates, the South, the Southeast, you're seeing an increase in natural immunity. The models showing scientists what they expected to see as they dive deeper into the data, that the COVID cases follow the path of immunity, whether it's vaccination or the virus. They prefer the vaccination approach, of course. And are we out of the woods, right, is the question we're asking? Not at all. Absolutely not. Not time to let our guard down. But the data is very encouraging. It gets even more encouraging, Nicole, the more we follow the proper protocols, wearing the masks and getting the shots.
Not at all out of the woods, Tom, but yes, we are hopefully on the road to recovery. All right, Tom, thank you for that. Well, here's some more possible good news. Cruise ships originating from U.S. ports are gradually returning to service after the pandemic forced an unprecedented shutdown. News Nation's Jacqueline Sarkisian from our San Diego station KSWB reports on the industry preparing for a comeback.
The last time the Disney Wonder was in the port of San Diego with passengers on board was March of 2020. It has been 18 months, so very exciting that this cruise ship will eventually, in just a matter of a few days, will set sail with passengers on board for the first time in a very long time. So as the city of San Diego prepares for the cruise ship industry to make another comeback, Disney launched 2 test cruises for its employees and their guests. One took off on Monday, and another is set to leave today for a 4-night trip, including a stop in Cabo. Now, the first actual departure with passengers will be next Friday, October 1st, based on the Disney cruise ship website. Anyone 12 years and older must be fully vaccinated and take a COVID test upon boarding. Those 11 and under will have to take a rapid test before the trip, as well as a test while getting on the ship. The Disney Wonder will be setting sail next Friday, October 1st. It will be a 4-day cruise.
All right, Jacqueline, thank you for that. All right, well, videos like this, people fighting on airplanes, really seems to be all too common lately. The FAA says passenger behavior investigations are reaching record levels. Last year, 183 passenger investigations were initiated. But listen to this. So far this year, remember I just said 183 last year? 789 investigations have been launched. We still have 3 months to go, including the busy holiday travel season. More than 85% of flight attendants have now been forced to deal with these unruly passengers. And today, a congressional hearing with airline employees and aviation experts detailed the scope of the problem. News Nation correspondent Joe Khalil live for us tonight in D.C. Joe, things really only seem to be getting worse in the air.
Yeah, that's right, Nicole. And what you just showed, we're seeing a lot of examples of that in the last year and a half or so, too many. And so the FAA, they are trying to stop this. They're trying to get harsher punishments, putting in place what they call a zero tolerance policy, which in some cases means fines of up to $45,000, depending on what you do. And you're right. Today, Congress took it up, asking what they can do as well to try and slow this trend down. Fists flying.
Why am I being arrested?
Passengers detained.
Sit down, please. Go get him. Go get him.
Flight attendants harassed. The FAA says incidents like these on board flights are happening at twice the rate they were just last year.
Aviation workers have to deal with everything from vulgar language, including racial epithets, to punching, kicking, biting, shoving, and spitting. It is disgusting.
The FAA and Airports Council International say there isn't one specific reason for the increase in air rage, but acknowledge COVID has a lot to do with it. Of the nearly 4,400 reports of unruly passenger behavior, about 3,200 were related to airlines' mask mandates. And when these interactions become aggressive, even violent.
I've lost count the times I've been insulted or threatened on a flight.
It's the on-flight staff, like flight attendant Teddy Andrews, who bear the brunt. He described one experience asking a passenger to keep his mask on.
He said, N-word, I don't have to listen to a damn thing you say. This is a free country.
As of mid-August, the FAA issued more than $1 million in fines to unruly passengers. Still, some members of Congress say it's not enough.
The zero tolerance and the publicized fines has an impact. But we need more prosecutions.
Nicole, believe it or not, I just spoke about an hour ago with Congressman Cahaley from Hawaii. He says that while he was actually in the hearing today discussing this issue, one of his staffers was in the air and their flight had to be diverted back to Honolulu because a passenger punched a flight attendant on that flight. Again, during this hearing, it's just a really crazy situation. And, he too thinks that the answer to this is probably more serious prosecution for those who are committing these crimes in the air. That's what he says he wants to see happen.
Yeah, those videos, Joe, are just unbelievable. Something certainly has to be done. Joe, thank you for that. Well, we do want to let you know a high-level U.S. diplomat has resigned from his post as the migrant situation continues to worsen at the southern border. NewsNation White House correspondent Allison Harris is live. So, Allison, the optics really not looking very good for the Biden administration. So what do we know about this latest development?
Yeah, Nicole, tonight there's even more fallout with this. The Biden administration has stopped using horse patrols in Del Rio, Texas, as the Department of Homeland Security investigates exactly what happened with those border agents using aggressive tactics to wrangle Haitian migrants. This comes as the U.S. envoy to Haiti, Daniel Foote, he resigned his position today, saying that he will not be associated with the, quote, inhumane decision to deport thousands of Haitian refugees. The State Department released a statement in response stating that Foote was part of multiple senior-level policy conversations where his proposals were considered and they were determined to be harmful to the promotion of democracy in Haiti. The White House today also weighing in on this.
But I would note that Special Envoy Foote had ample opportunity to raise concerns about migration during his tenure. He never once did so. Now, that wasn't his purview.
The press secretary also explained today that roughly 5,000 Haitians have been expelled or released from the border. That leaves an estimated at least 10,000 migrants who are still at the U.S.-Mexico border. The White House cites the pandemic as the reason for maintaining a Trump-era policy that allows the administration to take these migrants into custody, then fly them back to Haiti. Those flights from Texas back to Haiti are being ramped up tonight. Nicole?
At least 10,000 migrants at the border. My goodness. All right, Allison, thank you for that. All right, well, let's stay in Washington. The federal government now 1 week from a shutdown if Democrats and Republicans cannot agree on a path forward to fund the government. NewsNation's Raquel Martin is in D.C. following each party's arguments.
It's yet another shutdown showdown on Capitol Hill. Democrats and Republicans are still sparring over how to keep the government open while also addressing the debt ceiling. A path forward is unclear, and they have just a week to figure it out. The plan to avoid a federal shutdown next week is in jeopardy as Democrats and Republicans battle over how to raise the debt ceiling.
The Republicans won't agree to pay our past bills, the debts we owe.
Give me a break.
Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell and Missouri Republican Josh Hawley say Democrats already have the power to avoid a shutdown.
If they want to tax, borrow, and spend historic sums of money without our input, they'll have to raise the debt limit without our help.
They can do it if they want to do it, and they should. But I'm certainly not going to help them do it.
The House already passed a bill to fund the government and raise the debt ceiling. But Democrats will need at least 10 Republicans to pass the plan in the Senate.
I mean, it's what we do as patriotic Americans.
Ohio Democrat Sherrod Brown says too much is at stake not to raise the debt ceiling. The Treasury Department predicts the government could run out of money to pay its debts by mid-October if Congress does not act.
I don't want to vote for it. I didn't want to vote for it when Trump was president, but I did because my obligation is to pay our bills so that we can make veterans VA benefit payments, so we can make Social Security payments.
Despite Republican pushback, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he will hold a vote on the entire package by next week.
Every single member of this chamber is going to go on record.
Democrats have not announced a plan B. Back to you, Nicole.
All right, Raquel, thank you for that. Well, it's a first of its kind move in New York. The city council's approved new working standards for delivery drivers like Uber Eats and DoorDash. Now, the legislation includes restaurant access to bathrooms. That's very important. A set minimum pay per trip and a guarantee for full tips. Now, the new protections put the Big Apple in the forefront of regulating the massive food delivery industry. Meantime, in California, now the first state to target production quotas. A new law signed by Governor Gavin Newsom takes aim at labor practices in warehouses, and it could really deliver the biggest impact to Amazon. NewsNation correspondent Nancy Liu is live for us tonight in Culver City. So, Nancy, what can those workers expect?
Well, Nicole, this new California law is billed as the nation's first transparency requirement to prevent abusive practices. For years, some Amazon employees have complained about dangerous and unhealthy work conditions, which even prohibit bathroom breaks. Just this week, Amazon opened a brand new facility near San Diego, hiring 1,500 new employees at what's now the largest Amazon fulfillment center in California.
We are a big, big baby, and so Amazon has brought in some of the newest technology, one of the biggest space and capacity in all of the network.
Technology is also highlighted at Amazon's Stockton facility, but the massive need for human help remains, and the focus on speed is at the heart of health and safety concerns cited in AB 701. The new law just signed by Governor Newsom requires companies like Amazon to disclose warehouse quotas, and it prohibits the use of algorithms to measure worker productivity.
The workers have to move a product, a package, upwards of 50 pounds every 6 seconds. And they need to take that package and run it 30 feet down an aisle, get it shelved, and get back. And so you can imagine the terror.
Workers claim quotas and algorithms have led to high injury rates and unfair firings for bathroom breaks. But the new legislation has riled a coalition of California business groups, which claim supply chain issues will be exacerbated. In a statement, the California Retailers Association said in part, AB 701 will make matters worse for everyone, creating more back-ordered goods and higher prices for everything from clothes, diapers, and food to auto parts, toys, and pet supplies.
The question we have for them is if allowing a worker to simply use the restroom and not be terminated for that is going to shut down the global supply chain, then we have bigger issues at hand.
Now, it's not clear yet how and when enforcement will play out, but presumably the state could find that production quotas are too high, and that would force Amazon to change its fulfillment processes here in California. So far, no formal comment or response to this new law from Amazon. Nicole?
Well, no response from Amazon, but I can tell you bathroom breaks are a necessity. All right, Nancy, thank you for that. Still ahead tonight on NewsNation Rush Hour. Feeling hungry? Well, how about this? Does this look like something you'd want to eat for lunch? A closer look at the backlash a New Jersey school district is facing tonight for serving this to students. One critic even saying this is something a dog would not eat. All right, take a good look with me here, my friends. Would you eat this? The meal on the left side of your screen contains a cheesesteak sandwich. All right. Now, this one is possibly meatloaf, maybe a vegetarian burger. We're not really sure yet, but these are just two of the lunches recently served to New Jersey high school students. No surprise, they are getting a lot of reaction, and not good reaction. NewsNation's Andrew Ramos from our New York City station WPIX has details on some of the changes prompted by these photos.
From disgraceful to something a dog wouldn't even eat. The critics on social media showed no mercy when describing the pair of lunches served to students at Patterson International High School last week. The photos were first shared by a parent on Facebook and then teacher and local advocate Zelly Thomas on Twitter. Soon after, they went viral. The meal on the left, Thomas said, was apparently chicken cheesesteak. The one on the right, unclear. The uproar not only caught the attention of many in the community, but school officials.
It's just disgusting. There's no other reaction.
Ken Simmons, Board of Education president, agreed that he wouldn't even serve his own children the meals now viral on social media, explaining that the school lunch mishap was the result of cafeteria staff not following the assigned recipes for the meals. He assures parents that providing nutrition through the district's free lunch program is and has always been the priority.
There are some other families who can afford to make sure that their children eat something different or something healthy, or even spend their lunch with them. But for the vast majority, that's not the case. So that is what makes it extremely disturbing.
The BOE says it will address the situation by conducting a thorough assessment of the district's food services program. It's a large undertaking, feeding 25,000 students from kindergarten through 8th grade with a budget of $3.5 million. But it's these far from appetizing dishes that are now serving as a wake-up call.
Andrew Ramos, News Nation, New York City.
Still ahead tonight, prosecutors wrapped up closing arguments in the sex crimes trial against singer R. Kelly. A closer look at the argument they made in favor of convicting the disgraced R&B star. Plus, an Indiana man accused of terrorizing women across the state for more than a year facing a judge today. A look at the charges against him and how long he could spend behind bars. Welcome back to News Nation Rush Hour. I'm Nicole Burley. Here's what's happening in your nation right now. The search for Brian Laundrie now officially a manhunt. This is breaking tonight. An arrest warrant issued within the last hour. The indictment handed down by a federal grand jury alleging Laundrie used Gabby Petito's debit card after her disappearance. Laundrie has not been seen since September 14th when he told his family he was going for a hike in the 24,000-acre Carlton Reserve in southern Florida. And tonight at 9/8 Central, a special edition of News Nation Prime, an entire hour focused on the Gabby Petito case. Brian Enton, Marnie Hughes, and Ashley Banfield will answer your questions live, digging into why this case has captivated the entire country. We're also following breaking news tonight out of a suburb of Memphis where 12 people injured, 2 are dead after a shooting at a grocery store. The gunman entered the Kroger in Collierville, Tennessee around 1:30 this afternoon, opening fire. At this time, police do believe the suspect shot 13 people, then shot and killed himself. 1 victim has died, 4 others are in critical condition. 25-year-old Illinois State University student Jelani Day is now confirmed dead. The county coroner confirming Day's body was pulled from the Illinois River September 4th, although the identity of the body was not confirmed until today. He was last seen alive in late August on campus in Normal, Illinois, but his car was found 3 days later in a nearby town with no license plates. Right now, his cause of death is still unknown. The U.S. Special Envoy to Haiti stepping down earlier today over the deportation of Haitian migrants in Texas. Daniel Foote was just appointed to that position in July. In his resignation letter, he said he could not be associated with the United States' quote, inhumane, counterproductive decision to deport thousands of Haitian refugees. And a hearing today on Capitol Hill, airline employees and aviation experts discussing unruly airline passengers like you see in this video. The FAA has issued more than $1 million in fines to unruly passengers, all part of the agency's new zero tolerance policy. But still, some members of Congress say that's just not enough. R. Kelly's New York City sex abuse trial nearing its end. Prosecutors wrapping up closing arguments earlier today, urging the jury to make Kelly, quote, pay for his crimes. News Nation's Kala Rama from our New York City station WPIX has the latest tonight from court.
Court wrapped up today with R. Kelly's defense team delivering their closing arguments directly to the jury, saying living the life of a playboy is not a crime.
The prosecution's closing arguments wrapped up today, summarizing the 45 witnesses that spoke against the singer. The jury was reminded of the graphic details of sexual and emotional abuse, describing how R. Kelly operated from a, quote, predator's handbook of isolation, coercion, humiliation, and manipulation of underage victims. Federal prosecutor Elizabeth Geddes trying to paint R. Kelly as the head of a criminal enterprise that recruited girls, boys, and young women for sex by using his fame and fortune to get what he wanted, meeting his victims inside shopping malls, arenas, and even a McDonald's. The prosecutor ended more than 6 hours of closing arguments by saying, quote, it is time to hold the defendant responsible for the pain inflicted on each of his victims, Aaliyah, Stephanie, Sonia, Geronda, Jane, and Faith. It is now time for the defendant, Robert Kelly, to pay for his crimes. Convict him, end quote. The 9 counts against R. Kelly include a racketeering charge and 8 violations of the Mann Act for sex trafficking across state lines. Legal analysts say closing arguments by the singer's defense team have one goal.
For the defense, remember, they just have to find one reasonable doubt, plant that seed of doubt in one juror, and guess what? You'll have a mistrial.
This case could go to the jury as early as tomorrow. In Brooklyn, New York, I'm Calla Rama. Back to you, Nicole.
All right, Calla, thank you for that. Let's head to Indiana now, where an alleged serial rapist is being held on a $500,000 cash bond. Police believe Daryl Goodloe is responsible for a number of brutal crimes against numerous women dating back more than a year. News Nation's Russ McQuaid from our Indianapolis station WXIN is following the details of this case. Russ.
It took a judge in Indianapolis more than 5 minutes to read all the charges against Daryl Goodloe, which, if he's convicted of those charges, could send him away to prison for the rest of his life. This charging document tracks a series of sexual assaults on older females, often living alone, from the area near 10th and Arlington to Arsenal Technical High School to Lawrence. Prosecutors asked for a $1 million cash bond for Daryl Goodloe. The judge agreed to $500,000.
We believe in this case that that bond was appropriate given the number of victims and the number of crimes that were committed and the amount of terror that he brought to the community.
Probable cause affidavits sometimes give a rosy or optimistic view of the state's case, but I'll have to see the actual reports from the crime lab to determine how positive they are.
Detectives continue to look at other past investigations without resolution to determine if they are connected to this current case. Goodloe is due back in court at the end of January. Back to you, Nicole.
All right, Russ, thank you for that. Still to come tonight on News Nation Rush Hour, we will take you live to Whistling Straits Golf Course, site of this weekend's famous Ryder Cup. Can the U.S. team defeat its European opponents? It is the U.S. versus Europe this weekend in Wisconsin. I got to say, it does look pretty out there. Some of the top golfers in the world taking part in the Ryder Cup, which was rescheduled after being postponed last year due to the pandemic. So let's start out to News Nation's Barrett Tryon from our Green Bay station, WFRV. He is live at Whistling Straits in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. I love saying that. So Barrett, fans obviously had to wait a long time for this.
Yes, Nicole, they did. And in fact, I'll tell you, we are now officially in the 43rd Ryder Cup. That's because the opening ceremony happened officially just about 45 minutes ago. But if you look behind me, you wouldn't know that there's going to be about 50,000 people here beginning tomorrow morning. That first matchup is tomorrow morning, starting at 7:05 this morning. Look at all sorts of fans already trying to say hi to us. Live TV, lots of pride for Team USA, as you can tell. Earlier today, there was a celebrity matchup, and there was some drama with that matchup, but it ended up being the Europeans ended up winning in that matchup. I should also say that tomorrow morning, I can't remember if I just said that 7:05 is when the foursome takes off. Later in the afternoon, those afternoon matches with the 4-ball takes off. This whole thing, by the way, wraps up on Sunday, and it takes about 4,000 volunteers to make all of this happen. So that was just what happened today and tomorrow. So lots of activity, especially for Sheboygan, which is only a town of about 40,000 people anyway.
All right, well, Barrett, you are a great sport. I know it can be distracting when people come up to you during the live shot. So you told us what happened out there today. You kind of gave us a preview of what's happening tomorrow. So how is Team USA's spirit? What's the energy like out there?
It is electric. I will tell you that much. You can tell I'm supporting Team USA, and pretty much everyone out here is. And it makes you feel a little bad, honestly, for the European team, Team Europe, because a lot of them couldn't travel because of COVID restrictions. So there's not as much European pride as maybe there would be. Also, it kind of helps that we're on our own home turf. And so there's a lot of people that we talked to that said, hey, we really hope that this home field advantage works in our favor, because right now it's not in our favor. So that's something that's exciting. So a lot of electricity around Team USA. You're seeing lots of wild costumes here at Whistling Straits.
Well, I can tell you, Barrett, the Team USA chant is going on right now in the newsroom. All right, Barrett, thank you for that. And still to come tonight on Rush Hour, a royal couple making their first joint appearance since moving to California. We will tell you what brought the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to the Big Apple. And what were the final days of Princess Diana and Prince Charles' marriage really like? We get a glimpse inside the rocky relationship in the chilling new trailer, Spencer. All right, we are talking entertainment now, and it's a new version of an old story. Princess Diana's life is coming to the big screen. One of my favorites, News Nation's Samantha Cortese from our Los Angeles station, KTLA, joining us live tonight. So, Samantha, this is a new trailer. Some describing it as pretty jaw-dropping.
And speaking of favorites, you are so right. It's jaw-dropping, and there's already discussion here in Los Angeles about Kristen Stewart and an Oscar nomination for her role as the Princess of Wales. Here's a look at Spencer.
Is she here yet?
Not yet, ma'am, no.
Then she's late.
The new footage captures a reality for Diana. The glitz and glam that accompanies the royal life in the Queen's family is not without intense scrutiny and, of course, harassment from the paparazzi. Stewart, dressed in stunning gowns and lavish suits, becomes slowly a little more tormented. We see her break down in this trailer. The film is not entirely true to fact. It's kind of an imagination of what might have been going on behind closed doors. We've seen this in The Crown, but as we saw with The Crown, it captivates an audience nonetheless. The movie Spencer premieres in theaters November 5th.
Well, yeah, and physically, I really think she was a good choice to play Diana there. All right, well, we're going to continue talking about the royal family here. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle making their first major joint appearance since stepping back from their royal roles. Where did they go, Samantha? What did they do?
They went to the Big Apple. Yes, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex went to New York City. They are discussing COVID-19 vaccines. They kicked off the trip with a visit to One World Trade Center. Joining them on the tour, New York Mayor Bill de Blasio and the New York governor, of course. They posed for pictures at the top of the skyscraper. Harry and Meghan are taking part in an event in New York this weekend, urging leaders to adopt a vaccine equity policy. The couple's trip marks their very first time visiting the city together.
All right, so Samantha, we're going to switch gears here. The pop culture event of 2020. Yes, right now it's 2021, but the pop culture event of 2020 is back. Definitely, whether you want this or not. Tiger King 2 rolling out soon on Netflix. So when can all of the Joe Exotic fans expect this new season to drop?
Tiger King is a trigger for so many of us. It just puts us back in our living rooms, drinking wine for no reason in the middle of the day. But nonetheless, yes, Netflix is bringing back Tiger King for a season 2. Here's a very quick sneak peek. And to answer your question, Nicole, no official release date yet. So we have a little while till we learn. The trailer shows Joe Exotic making a call from prison. He is currently serving 22 years for plotting to kill his nemesis, animal rights activist Carol Baskin. Baskin is seen walking through what appears to be a courthouse. And one thing's for sure, season 2 should bring some mayhem and madness. No date set for that release, but the series is expected to come roaring back relatively soon. I don't know how I feel about it, but I guess I have to watch it. It's my job, right? We have to know what's going on.
Yes, and I do love seeing that life-size portrait of Joe Exotic. All right, Samantha, thank you so much. Always fun talking to you. News Nation Rush Hour continues now live from our headquarters here in Chicago. Here's what's happening in your nation right now. Millions of Americans now qualify for booster shots of Pfizer's COVID vaccine. A panel of advisors to the CDC decided today booster doses should be offered to people 65 and older, nursing home residents, and those 18 and up at higher risk of contracting the virus. The advisors recommend boosters be given no earlier than 6 months past their last shot. A former Louisiana State Police trooper has been charged with a civil rights violation for beating a black motorist 18 times with a flashlight. The 2019 beating left Aaron Bowman with a broken jaw, broken ribs, a gash to his head. It was captured on body cam but kept from the public for more than 2 years. The fate of the site of the deadly condo collapse in Surfside, Florida this past summer is pitting victims' relatives against would-be developers. Family members of those who died when the 12-story building collapsed in June say the 2-acre beachfront lot should not be the site of a new luxury high-rise, but a memorial for the 98 people killed. The property, which is expected to go for about $150 million, is scheduled to go to auction early next year. Some new information tonight on a shooting earlier this week at a Virginia high school. Surveillance video shows the 15-year-old gunman opening fire in a hallway after a teacher broke up a fight he was having with another student. A 17-year-old boy and girl were hit, both though expected to be okay. That teenage shooter now facing multiple charges. And an ancient tablet looted from an Iraqi museum decades ago is finally heading back home. The relic is known as the Gilgamesh Dream Tablet. Officials believe it was illegally imported into the U.S. back in 2003, then sold to Hobby Lobby and put on display in its Museum of the Bible in Washington before being seized by the feds. And after 2 months on the run, Barney the Bull has been located. Barney escaped from a New York slaughterhouse in July. He's been roaming around Long Island ever since. Some good news here. Now that he's been captured, he will not go back to the slaughterhouse, but instead will spend the rest of his days at an animal sanctuary in New Jersey. And as always, we do like to leave you with a smile when we can. Tonight's comes courtesy of the Trenton Thunder minor league baseball team. But more specifically, the team's bat dog named Rookie. He stormed the field during the team's game against Buffalo because he was just too excited to wait for the at-bat to end. The enthusiasm, energy, something we all strive for. So kudos to Rookie. That's it for News Nation Rush Hour. A reminder tonight at 9/8 Central, a special edition of News Nation Prime, an entire hour focused on the Gabby Petito case. Brian Enton, Marnie Hughes, Ashley Banfield will all answer your questions live about the case. You can also watch and read more at newsnationnow.com/Gabby.